radiator, engine fluid reservoir. You can say engine coolant, engine fluid, same thing. Engine coolant reservoir is properly mounted and secure. This is where I will add engine coolant if it's necessary. Should be at proper full level at all times. My hose are properly mounted and secured on both ends. The hose are not cut, cracked, or leaking. That's important. The hose are properly mounted and secured on both ends. The hose are not cut, cracked, or leaking. From there you go down to your alternator. This is the alternator. My alternator is properly mounted and secured. It's an electrical device. The wires are not frayed and there's no signs of wires shorting out. It's belt driven. You have to mention it because it's belt driven. It's belt driven, it is not gear driven. No nuts, no bolts missing. This is my oil dipstick. I will add oil through that hole. I don't know what hole, but it should be a hole in there if it's necessary. On another truck I think it's a little bit different, but same thing. My water pump is properly mounted and secured. No nuts, no bolts missing. It's not leaking. It is belt driven. It is not gear driven. I should have no more than 3/4 of an inch of free play or slack from the middle of the belt. See one thing? Point A, point B in the middle. No more than 3/4 of an inch of slack in the middle. Then you mention the frame. You go down to your frame. My frame is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged. No illegal welds. No drill marks. No illegal drill hole marks. That's it. Then you go to your spring mounts. My spring mounts are properly mounted and secured. No illegal, what do you call it? Welds. No illegal welds. Is that what I was saying? Illegal welds? Yeah, no illegal welds. No nuts, no bolts missing. It's not bent. It's not damaged. My spring leaves. My spring leaves are properly mounted and secured. They're not missing. They're not shifted. They're not broken. Then you go to your shock absorber. My shocks are properly mounted and secured. The bushings are not cracked or damaged. No nuts, no bolts missing. The shocks are not leaking. Then you go to your air hose. My air hose is properly mounted and secure on both ends. The hose are not cut, cracked, or leaking. My brake chamber. My brake chamber is properly mounted and secure. I have my C-clamp. It's not damaged. It's not broken. My slack adjuster and push rod should be at 90 degrees. My push rod should be at 90 degrees. My slack adjuster should not have no more than 1 inch of free play. This is where I will adjust my slack if it's necessary. My brake drum is properly mounted and secured. There should be no excessive oil that will cause braking problem. My brake line, brake shoes, brake pads are properly mounted and secured. A minimum of 1/4 of an inch. Should have 1/4 of an inch minimum. 1/4 of an inch on brake line, brake shoes, and brake pads. Huh? Brake linings are the ones on the brake drum, right? And the brake shoes are the brake shoes, right? Yeah. That's what they taught us. So that's I say then. This is my steering tie rod. That thing in there, that's my tie rod. My tie rod is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent. It's not damaged. My steering knuckle is properly mounted and secured. I'm not missing no castle nuts or cutter pins. There should be no excessive free play at the ball joints. I mentioned my brake drum. I mentioned my brake shoes, brake linings, minimum 1/4 of an inch. From the inside, you're going to make sure my rim is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged or illegal welds. Then you're going to come to your tire ICD, inflation condition depth. Side of your tire, no bubbles, no bulges, no major cuts that will cause the tire wall to fail. Inflation ICD, inflation 85 to 105 depending on manufacturer. If I have to check the tire pressure, I will either use a mallet or I will use an air gauge to check the tire pressure. Condition, I cannot have no recaps on my steering tires. No recapped tires. Depth, minimum of 4/32 of an inch. Minimum 4/32 of an inch. And then you're going to mention the rim from the outside. Properly mounted and secured, no illegal welds. It's not bent, it's not damaged. Lug nuts, properly mounted and secured, no shiny, no rust marks that will indicate a loose lug nut. Hub oil seal is properly mounted and secured. It's not leaking oil. If it's necessary, I will add 90 weight gear oil through there. Valve stem. Valve stem should be 1 inch away from the rim. Should not be touching the rim. Not broken, not bent, not leaking air. And that concludes this side. My windshield fluid reservoir is properly mounted and secured. It should have proper level at all times. If it's necessary, I will add windshield fluid reservoir through this hole, through this place. Okay. The hoses are properly mounted and secured on both ends. The hoses are not cut, cracked, or leaking. From there you come to your air compressor. My air compressor is properly mounted and secured. Again, you mentioned that it's not belt driven, it is gear driven. It's not leaking air, no nuts, no bolts missing. My water pump reservoir is right behind the air compressor. Not my water pump. Right behind the air compressor is my power steering pump. My power steering pump is properly mounted and secured. It is gear driven. It's not leaking. No nuts, no bolts missing. Steering shaft is properly mounted and secured on both ends. The U-joints should be greased at all times properly. The rubber boot is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked. They will allow poisonous fumes to escape to the inner cab. My air duct is properly mounted and secured. It should have clean filter at all times, but I don't think they mentioned this, but whatever. My power steering fluid reservoir is properly mounted and secured. It should have proper level at all times. If it's necessary, I will add power steering fluid through here. All the power steering fluid hoses are properly mounted and secured on both ends. All the power steering fluid hoses are not cut, cracked, or leaking. Power steering gearbox. Power steering gearbox is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, damaged, no nuts, no bolts missing. Pitman arm is properly mounted and secured. No nuts, no bolts missing. It's not bent or damaged. I have my cotter pin. I have my castle nut. There should not be no excessive free play at the ball joints. My drag link is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. It's not bent. Then you mentioned your shock, spring mounts, spring leaves, everything the same thing. On that side, you're going to do everything same thing on this side. Mud flap, what do you call this? Is there another word in English? Mud flap, whatever. What is this?
Fender.
Fender. My fender is not touching the tire, it's not touching the ground. It's properly mounted and secure. Then you mentioned your mirror again. Properly mounted and secure. The brackets are not cracked, bent, or damaged. The mirrors are they're not excessively dirty. They're adjusted to my specifications.
But that's broken, the fender.
Yeah.
You said this one was the air compressor, right?
Yeah, that one is there.
You said what was behind it?
Air next to it, behind it.
Yeah.
This is the air compressor. Over here is the power steering pump.
Do they have power steering pump on there?
Yeah, this is a power steering. It has a power steering system. This is a power steering fluid. It has to have a pump. Because the power steering fluid, the power steering system works on a hydraulic pressure, so it has to be.
So air compressor and power steering.
Yeah.
Two main things.
And then on the tire, you mentioned. See, if the instructor is not going to say to you, name it one by one. He wants to hear this thing. Lug nuts are properly mounted and secured. No shiny, no rust marks. That will indicate a loose lug nut. Hub oil seal properly mounted and secured. I will add 90 weight gear oil through this seal if it's necessary. The valve stem, again, that little thing, it's on under there. The valve stem is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged. It's not leaking. I see the inflation condition depth. Inflation 85 to 105 depending on manufacturer. If it's necessary, I will use a mallet to test for its pressure or an air gauge. Condition. I cannot have no recaps on the steering tires. No recaps on the steering tires. No bulges, no cuts on the sidewall of a tire that will cause the tire to fail. And then you come to the stairs.
You have to do it on both sides?
You do have to do it on both sides. On the inside and outside. When you mention your brake lines, brake shoes inside, your brake drum, your brake chamber, slack adjuster, all that you have to mention inside the tire, inside the rim, and outside of the rim. And then you come to your steps. My steps are properly mounted and secured. There should be no debris. You should not have no oil that will cause me to slip and fall. It's not bent, it's not damaged. The door opens and closes freely. My handlebar is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, it's not damaged. My fuel tank is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, it's not leaking. My fuel tank Saddle strap. This is a saddle strap. It's properly mounted and secured. It should have a rubber gasket. There should be no metal to metal contact. My fuel cap is properly mounted and secured. It's not damaged. It should have a safety chain with a T-bar and a rubber gasket inside. And then from there you come to this. My service brake, my emergency, my electrical line is properly mounted and secured. The hoses are not cut, cracked, or leaking. Blue to blue, red to red, and electrical goes into this electric connection. But you don't even have to mention that, but it's up to you. The drive shaft is properly mounted and secured. It doesn't seem that it's bent. The U-joint has to be greased properly at all times. Battery is properly mounted and secured. There is no signs of corrosion at the terminals. The wires are not, there's no signs of wire fraying or no signs of wires shorting out. You don't have to mention you have to empty your air tanks. They don't want to hear that. Your exhaust is properly mounted and secured. No nuts, no bolts missing. The exhaust has a heat shield and there is no sip marks on exhaust that will indicate an exhaust leak. My header board is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged. And my catwalk, it's a piece of metal that goes here. My catwalk is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, it's not damaged. My U-joint, there's another U-joint over there. It's properly mounted and secured. It's greased. It's not broken. Who's next? Okay. My gland hands, it's properly mounted and secured. They're not damaged. I carry extra rubber gaskets in case I develop a leak. You carry extra of these in case you develop a leak. From there you come to this, my spring mounts. Spring mounts properly mounted and secured. No nuts, no bolts missing, no illegal welds. Spring leaves properly mounted and secured. They're not broken, they're not shifted. U-bolts. I think I forgot to mention. U-bolts are properly mounted and secured. No nuts, no bolts missing. Dual air brake chamber. There's two of them, so we said dual air brake chamber properly mounted and secured with the C-clamp. They're not damaged, they're not leaking. Hose, brake hose, properly mounted and secured on both ends. The hoses are not cut, cracked, or leaking. Differential is a big round thing in the middle, you see? That big piece of metal? Differential is not leaking, it's properly mounted and secured, it's not bent, it's not damaged. Slack adjuster has a slack adjuster you cannot see here, but it has a slack adjuster, it's 90 degree, it should not have no more than 1 inch of free play. Push right and slack adjuster, 90 degree, no more than 1 inch of free play. Brake drum is this big round piece of metal. Brake drum is properly mounted and secured. There should be no excessive grease or oil that will cause a braking problem. Brake line, brake shoes, brake pads, you just say those three so you cover everything. Brake line, brake shoes, brake pads should have minimum of 1/4 of an inch of wear, minimum. You don't say the maximum because they don't care about the maximum. My dual tires are properly mounted and secure. My dual brake drums are properly mounted and secure. There should be no debris between my dual tires, no rocks that will cause the tire to fail. My dual rims are properly mounted and secured. On this truck I don't have no spacer. The rims are flushed against each other. Tire, and then you mentioned inside. Outside on this one is a 2/32 of a tire wear. 2/32 of an inch of tire wear, and you can have recap on this tires for this back of the truck. This is kind of confusing. Fifth wheel platform is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, damaged, no nuts, no bolts missing. This is the platform. This is the platform actually. This piece of metal. This is the fifth wheel. This is the platform. No nuts, no bolts missing. It's not bent or damaged. My release arm should be in locked position with a safety ledge. The apron is the flat part of the fifth wheel. The apron should be greased properly at all times. There should not be no daylight between the apron and the trailer platform. This is the trailer platform. The flat part is the apron. There should be no daylight. It should be greased properly at all times. If there's a daylight, it indicates that it's not properly locked. The locking jaws is in the back. Should be locked around the kingpin at all times. And I have my safety pin. I'm not missing no safety pins. They're properly mounted and secured, not bent, not broken. That's it. Then you mentioned side of your trailer, properly mounted and secured, no sheets of metal sticking out, no missing rivets. Trailer markers, amber in color, not broken, not missing. Trailer frame properly mounted and secure. Trailer bridges properly mounted and secure. No illegal welds, not broken, not bent, not damaged. And then you come to your mud flaps. This one is not called hub oil seal, this is called axle seal. That one in the front is the hub oil seal, this one is an axle seal. An axle seal is properly mounted and secured, no nuts, no bolts missing, it's not leaking because inside there is the gear oil. It's not leaking. You have to mention again, lug nuts, everything, tire, rim, everything in the same way in the front. You have to mention all that. Mud flaps properly mounted and secured, not touching the tire, not touching the ground. Over here is important. Over here you're going to see the locking jaws. The locking jaws inside of there are locked, should be locked properly around the kingpin. They're not broken, they're not bent or damaged. I have my turn signals, red in color, properly mounted and secured, not broken, not missing. My brake lights, again, properly mounted and secured, red in color, not broken, not missing. My reverse lights, properly mounted and secured, red in color, not broken, not missing. Because it's one light, but inside of one light it does three functions. It's the turn signal, reverse, four-way flasher, emergency, four-way flasher, turn signals. So you have to mention all that. That's it. Then you come to this one. My landing gear is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged. The brackets are not cracked, bent or damaged. My landing gear shoe is properly mounted and secured. It's adjustable for any kind of surface. My crank arm is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent or damaged. It has two speeds, high and low speeds. My trailer markers, reflective tapes are properly mounted and secured. Not cracked, not missing. And then you come here, you mentioned this. This is a spring mount. My spring mount is properly mounted and secured. The only thing different here is that it's welded to the frame. My torque arm, this is a torque arm. My torque arm is properly mounted and secured. There is no excessive free play at the ends of torque arm. Torque arm is adjustable on the left side. On the right side, it's not adjustable. You have to say that. Left side is adjustable, right side is not adjustable. Trailer frame is properly mounted and secure. You don't have to say it, but dual air brake chambers again. Brake hose properly mounted and secure on both ends. The hose are not cut, cracked, or leaking. Brake line, brake drum, brake line, brake shoes, brake pads, minimum of 1/4 of an inch. Spring mounts, spring leaves, U-bolts, properly mounted and secure, no nuts, no bolts missing, not bent, not damaged. Again, you see, my duals are properly mounted and secure. There should be no debris between dual tires that will cause the tire to fail or catch on fire. My rims are properly mounted and secure. They're flushed against each other. There is no spacer. On that truck, I don't think there's no spacer between the dual rims. Then you have to say the inside of the tire, inside of the rim. And this is the same thing. 2 30-seconds of a tire wear, 2 30-seconds of an inch of tire wear. You can have recaps on this tire. The tires can be recapped. On this one, the middle one, but the front one, no. 2 30-seconds of an inch if you need to change it. Test the pressure, use a mallet or an air gauge. This is a hub oil seal again. This is a hub oil seal. The middle one is an axle seal, but this is a hub oil seal. This is what I will add 90 weight gear oil if it's necessary. My hub oil seal is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or leaking. My lug nuts are properly mounted and secured. No shining, no rust marks. They will indicate a loose lug nut. My valve stem is properly mounted and secured. It's not touching the rim. It's not bent, damaged, or leaking. You have to mention everything the same way in the front, inside, out, in the middle. And then the whole thing, my reflective markers are properly mounted and secured. They're red in color, not broken, not missing. My turn signals, not broken, not missing. My brake lights, properly mounted and secured, not broken, not missing, red in color. Turn signals, brake lights, four-way flasher, properly mounted and secured, not broken, not missing. My door opens and closes freely. The locking mechanism is not damaged. It opens and closes freely. My DOT bumper is properly mounted and secure, not bent or damaged. California license plates up to date. Mud flap, properly mounted and secure, not touching the ground. Mud flat, there's no mud flat, but mud flap not touching the tire, not touching the ground.
Because it's not there.
Pencil hook, properly mounted and secured, no nuts, no bolts missing. Chain guard, properly mounted and secured, it's not bent or damaged. Glen hands, properly mounted and secured, they're not bent or damaged or leaking air. That's it. But don't launch my video. Watch the video I gave it. Because